Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matthew. Today is Saturday, December the 10th. We are back in the game room with another episode of Watty's channel. So, today's episode, not necessarily a video request from anyone, but it's something that's been asked of me a lot over the last, I don't know, 8 months or so that I've had this channel up. And, from the creation of this channel, the viewers, they ask a question. Ever since I started my eBay account, I always buy from a lot of the same sellers. The question comes from them as well, or just random people who are down in my game room. Repairmen or installers, etc. They take in the collection and they always ask, what are some of my most expensive collectibles. So I thought about it, and over time I wanted to get the right amount of figures to talk about. So that's actually what this video is. It's going to be what are the most valuable figures of my collection. Now, there's not any of these figures aren't going to be anything crazy. You're not going to be looking at any $1, $2, $3,000 figures or anything like that. Now, I also have to reiterate, as far as value, that is based on what I personally paid for the figure. So, I could have a Corporal Kirchner bearded figure that sells for $800. That's throw out a random number, and I could have paid $50 for it. Well, anything that's under $200 for this video will not be taken in consideration. Again, a $50 figure to me, for the right figure, that isn't that much of a hardship. So again, I'm drawing the bottom line at $200 per figure, per package, however you want to look at it. So let's dive right in per usual. So, not the least expensive. I'm not going in any type of order. If I pay $800, I might show this figure. If I pay $200, I might show that one second, third, whatnot. But so again, not necessarily in order. I'm just grabbing them as I have them laid out here. The first figure I'm talking about is, of course, from Wrestling Writer. Sorry about that. I always have to pause right in the middle of a cough or a sneeze or whatnot. The first figure from Wrestling Writer is Bruiser Brody. Every time I bring up this figure, I mentioned at one point this was the most expensive action figure or collectible that I ever paid. And the purchase price on this was about, I think, $250, with shipping, taxes, whatnot. Probably came out like $270 plus. And I never in a million years expected to spend that type of money on an action figure. I don't care how deep into the collecting world I got. So for me to shell out that kind of money, and it also, focuses on the actual seller. And that's why I strive to build these good rapport and these great relationships with folks, because, with the right seller, you're willing to shell out a little bit more money than you would for, someone you never bought from. All these different sellers I talk about, yeah, I'm willing to go up a little more on price, because of the people that they are, because of the service they provide, etc. So, Bruiser Brody held the title for my most expensive figure at $250. And again, this is just the purchase price for the most part in this video. I'm not talking about shipping costs and taxes, because who knows? You could pay $350 on a figure and end up spending $425 with all the other, taxes and stuff thrown in there. So I'm trying to go off to the best of my ability, off memory, the highest or the purchase price for the figure. So $250 for the Bruiser Brody. Now this next kit, I guess, set is going to be just over my shoulder here, the LJN wrestling ring. It really messes me up because I always see the wrestling ring on auction, and I put a bid in. I'd probably go up to 200, 225, 250 on these things, and they'd always sell for like $300, $400, $450, like crazy money, and it always frustrates me. So the first figure let's see if I get it good. There it is. The very first wrestling ring was that one right there. So the first ring, and it happens like crazy. You spend more money on one on one thing, on one collectible, and then you buy a second one and a third one, and it's always far less than you paid on the follow-ups than you did on the first one. So this one, obviously, because of the condition of the box, because of the condition of the actual ring, I paid twice as much. But you're talking about $100 for one wrestling ring. I paid like $200 for the second one, which is, again, incredible shape. It was on auction. I'm like, forget that. I'll do the buy it now. $200, great price for that particular item. And then, of course, later on, I got a third ring with cage, no box, unfortunately. But it was like somewhere in the $150 range. So, I lucked out, and it just goes to show you, if you hold out long enough, you will be able to find the right piece of your collection for a decent price. So, Bruiser Brody at $250. The wrestling ring, I'm going with the most expensive one, $200. And the next one here, also for about $200. And I think this one was at like $220 for like the longest time. And I've been watching it for months and months. It was the last piece that I needed to complete my collection for that particular line. I just didn't want to shell out $200 for an action figure, especially even though I like this figure. It's not, to me, it's not a line that I think is that valuable, and I don't care if it's a local or an overseas figure. And I am talking about the Galoob line, Brian Pillman Series 2. Now, I did get a phenomenal Galoob custom made from Robert Jackson to look just like this one. So I did actually consider my collection to be complete at that point. But to get the real thing on card is absolutely fantastic. So, Brian Pillman, again, I've seen this figure loose sell for, what was it, $250 or $350, some crazy number. I'm going to call it $300. I don't think it was $350, but loose $300, and to get this on card for $200, great price. And right now I'm actually starting a Galoob carded collection. So I've got all of them loose, and I've acquired a majority of Series 1, and that even includes a tag team of the Steiner brothers. So got them both loose, got them both on single or double card. So that's pretty cool as well. Brian Pillman, $200. So, this one, two of the next three items I'm going to be talking about were kind of a spur-of-the-moment type of deal. I had been watching this particular item for the longest time. I really hadn't seen it on anyone else's site. So, there really only was one option on eBay. And I've been watching this for months. Not exactly the greatest line of wrestling figures ever, yet I feel like some of the most expensive figures I've ever purchased come from the original San Francisco toy makers. So, this figure and a couple figures from now that I'm going to be talking about, again, kind of a spur-of-the-moment type of deal. And I talked about missing out on the Jimmy Hart figure. Literally, the holy grail of toy collecting is the dark-skinned Jimmy Hart from original San Francisco on card. I put in this massive bid of over $1,100, which never in a gazillion years. I figured once it hit like $500, I was ready to tap out, but I knew I was never going to come across that figure again. The fact that I came across it one time, I just had to go all in. There was just no other choice in the matter. Of course, right at the end, they outbid me. I think it sold for like $1,300. I was so ticked off about that. So, once I lost out on the dark-skinned Jimmy Hart original San Francisco, I had to make up for it with a couple other purchases. And that included the 2-pack of Sting and Hulk Hogan from Series 2. And I think the Series 2 on Purple Card are some of your most expensive original San Francisco figures as it is. So I did have this already with, this Hogan and a Sting with green pants, or, lime green pants, which probably about $100 figure today, not anything super expensive, but This one cost me a little bit of a bundle. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $350 in order to acquire this box set. Was not happy about having to pony up that much money, but once you get something like this in and you're able to slide it right there on your shelf, you're just so thrilled and so excited to be able to get this piece. And I'm trying to wonder if I got this from the same seller or not that I bought. Again, when I show it, I'll talk about it. It may not be, but no, it wasn't. This one came from a guy, Donnie something on eBay. I forget his whole screen name. I've only bought from like once or twice maybe. And again, you know, a lot of his stuff is being sold in order to turn profit. So a lot of expensive items. But the 2-pack, again from Series 2, original San Francisco. Their action figures are some of the most expensive that you'll ever find. And I don't think they're super rare or anything, so it's kind of curious why so many of their figures, but, you know, 1990s, so these things that are 20, 25 years old, understandable. This one just came in a couple days ago. I never thought I would get a black card anything. Yes, original San Francisco Series 1 is black card, but majority of the time when you think black card wrestling figures, you know, you're thinking about some of the most elite, most expensive action figures you'll ever come across. And to come across the black card grudge match of Abdullah the Butcher and Colon here, absolutely amazing. And I can't remember, I want to say the 91 or 92 Royal Rumble when Carlos Colon, even though I really didn't know anything about AWA or know anything about, you know, the characters, I just remember this little, you know, one shoulder singlet, you know, and they called him out, you know, running down the aisle, Carlos Colon. I'm like, I have no idea who Carlos Colon is, but he appeared in that Royal Rumble. Could have been 92, sometime in the early 90s. But again, once I got into wrestling collecting, and, you know, I don't stick to just one toy line. I kind of branch out to multiple. So when you look at all these different lines, and majority of them are either complete or very close to complete, this one was an important one. I usually see this box set sell for $8, $9, $1,000. I got this one luckily for about $350. And there were a couple of reasons. I think, you know, it was sold for so little. And trust me, $350 is not little by any stretch of the imagination. But compared to other prices, absolutely. So they were kind of coming off the card a little bit. So I did tape it around, you know, use packet tape so it kind of blends in. You're not really seeing it unless you're staring right at it. And, you know, a little crease here in the corner. For me, obviously, like any collector, you want your packages to be in mint condition as much as the figures themselves. But I'm also not one of those people who are going to complain about every little tick mark here or there. So, I mean, just to be able to say I have these figures on card, and yes, I do have these two figures loose, and I keep buying them loose because I think they're so valuable. But, you know, still, just a couple more to add to the collection. And my first black card series. And let me see, I got three tag team cards over there, and I think I have 3 more carded, two tag team members. So again, this would be 6 altogether. Yeah, 6 altogether, and my first black card. It is the AWA Remco, once again, of Carlos Colon and Abdullah the Butcher. So, after, again, backtracking a little bit, after missing out on the original San Francisco dark skin Jimmy Hart, I had to settle for something else. And not quite as rare, but rare enough to the point where I've only seen a couple of these on eBay, and I think they came from the same seller. And it is the light blue Ric Flair. And this is one of the reasons why I don't want to say despise, because, you know, as far as carding goes, as far as the actual figures, poses, original San Francisco has probably stepped in as like my number 3 favorite line now. The reason I say I despise it to an extent is the fact that they keep using the same characters over and over and over again. It drives me nuts. So Ric Flair started it all. When I first started collecting original San Francisco, they were all loose. 18 figures, 20 figures, 25. I don't know how many I had. But the first carded figure I bought was a Series 3 Red Trunk Ric Flair. And me having OCD the way I do, you get one figure on card, that means you got to get them all on card. And so when you look at the figures, original San Francisco, they came out with a purple or dark blue version. They came out with the red version. They came out with the green version. They came out with the blue version. And I think that the blue or sky blue Ric Flair, just like the dark skin Jimmy Hart, is one of the most rare original San Francisco figures that you're going to find. And this one cost me a pretty penny. So the seller originally had a whole bundle. I want to say he had it for $1,100 or $1,200. So you had two carded Ric Flairs. I think he also the loose Ric Flair was in a separate separate listing. But he had two carded blue trunks, and he had a few other figures. I think he had Vader, maybe Jimmy Hart with red suit or something. I forget what he had, but I think it was 4 other figures on there. And if I was a smart man, I wouldn't have tried to haggle with him at the time that I was buying this. I would have just, if I could do things differently, I would just, buy it now, bam, get him all one time. Because this one individually, because he ended up, once I started talking to him, he ended up breaking up the listing anyways, and he had listed for $950 individually, and then he had this one listed for $700 or $600, and then the other listings, I think he had 4 other figures that he put up $500, so it would have been in my best interest just to get the whole lot, but we're talking about paying $1,000 at one time for I mean, come on. For some people, that's an entire paycheck. I mean, that's insane. But I did get the Ric Flair figure again as my consolation prize for not getting the Jimmy Hart figure, and I think I paid $500 for this, maybe more than that even. It may have been $500, close to $600 with everything else included, shipping, taxes, all that. Ric Flair, sky blue. I don't remember the exact price, so I'm just going to say $500. Now, kind of sticking with the Black Heart scheme, we got the grudge match from Remco with the tag team, and then even, the Series 1 Ric Flair, which Black Heart, but Series 1 ain't exactly that much, that isn't really that rare outside of that version of Ric Flair. I do have my first black card from LJN. So, this Hulk Hogan figure has officially taken over as my most expensive figure of all time. Again, key word to take away is my most expensive figure, not necessarily my most valuable. But I got this figure from a seller in, I believe it was New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's the only reason why I was able to get it for as cheap, got to put quotations around the word cheap, as I did. So I paid, I think, $675. Again, that was just, purchase price. All in all, I think it came out to be $780 with shipping and taxes and all that. So almost $800 for a Black Card Series 6 figure. And what I find interesting, they still keep the blue card on the back, even though they change out the black card front part. So, in a nutshell, if I'm willing to pay $800 or close to it for a Hulk Hogan figure, which I already have, maybe not carded, but I already have it, well, that's not fair because I have all the figures. But if I'm willing to shell out a figure that was already pre-made in Series 5, I strongly believe that at some point in my life I probably will, shell out $1,000 or 1100, 1200, 1300, whatever it costs to land like a Big Boss Man or heck, even Rick Rude for that matter. I keep thinking Rick Rude is going to be one of the more cheap versions, but online, $1,100 is probably what the cheapest I've seen on card. I do believe I will get eventually another black carded figure at some point in my life, hopefully in the very near future. I always said that when I started the LJNs, I wanted to have it was my goal to get at least 5 carded figures. I really didn't care who the character was. It was just about having something to hang up for display. So among that 5, if one of them could have been, the original 5 card backing, which I now have, of course, with that Big John stud. And that's another thing I've talked about. It's always cheaper to buy it's always more expensive to buy the first one, because every time you buy duplicates, it always seems to be a lot cheaper, and it makes you mad because it's like, why couldn't I get this the first time around? So when I pay $400 for a Big John stud, and I think at the same moment I won another auction, which I thought I was going to lose, and I paid $300 and some for that one, and then paid $200 for the other one. It's like, wow. They keep going down and down in price, and I keep seeing them on auction or buy it now for really cheap prices. But I'm like, you know what? I've got 3 of these. 2 of them are up for sale. I can't keep buying them because, yeah. So, recap. To the best of my knowledge, wrestling ring, the more expensive one, $200. The Galoob Series 2 UK exclusive, Brian Pillman, $200. From Wrestling Rider, the custom of... I keep forgetting his freaking name. Bruiser Brody. That's like the second time in like the last 2 days just kind of thinking about this figure that I forgot his name. Where are we at? Oh. At $350, the tag team of Sting and Hogan. This one with black pants. Again, much more rare than the one with the green pants, which is about $100 2-pack. And then you got basically triple or quadruple the price to get that one. Remco's tag team, black card, awesome. Another figure from original San Francisco, the $500 Ric Flair. And finally, we'll round it off. We'll call it the $700 Hulk Hogan, black card. So, what time we at? Wow, 23 minutes almost. To be honest, guys, I honestly believe that this was going to be like a 15 to 20 minute video. And that's why I've stopped saying, oh yeah, this is going to be a 15 minute video. Because every time I start a video and I say 15 minutes, it turns out to be like 35 minutes. So, this was just, I guess, a quick, not really recap, because I wasn't really recapping anything, but... This is a question that a lot of people ask. What are my most expensive figures, or what are my most valuable figures is the key word. And I may value something a whole lot more. What's a good example? Alright, so here's a quick figure from Wrestling Rider. Okay, I might say I value this Hulk Hogan more than this Brian Pillman. But you're talking about a $100 figure compared to a $200 figure. So in those terms, yes. Obviously, this one's going to hold more value, both financially and otherwise. So, I don't know necessarily if this video has to be made again. So, like, if this one does really well, and, in the comments, anyone says that, hey, we want to see some more of your more expensive figures. Yeah, there's a number of figures that I have here that have cost me north of $100. I usually try to keep it within the $100 range if I can. Like, there's a ton of Hasbro figures that, you find for $250 and $350, etc. I didn't even touch the Hasbros that are hanging on my wall as you come down the stairs. All the carded Hasbro figures. I mean, I've got Legion of Doom, Nasty Boys, basically all your 2-packs, and even the individual, who's that, X from Demolition. Those are all $200, $300, $400 cards right there, so I didn't even include those. So if anyone's interested in seeing this type of video again, there's still plenty more really truly expensive figures to discuss, and I could throw in some more of my tag team Remco figures. I look around this room, they're just everywhere. More of the glue carded figures. I mean, I didn't even touch any of the Jakks Classic Superstars, which I think the most expensive one from there is probably like $120. But those are normally like your 2 and your 3 pack figures. I don't think I paid that type of money for individual wrestlers. Yeah, that's. I could probably throw in, what was it, Random Treasures, because they kind of rip you off when they throw out those 2 pack tag teams, Bushwhackers, Wild Samoans, Legion of Doom, etc. But again, that's another story. All right, I'm gonna shut up, guys. I have a habit of going on after my video is concluded, so let me know what you guys think. If you'd like to see more, I'm probably gonna post this video after. Actually, I think the next video I'm going to post is going to be on Monday. So, if today is the 10th, yes it is, the 10th. So, Monday the 12th, I will post this video. Reason being, I just posted the other day the second and final episode of round 4 of my tournament. So, this will kind of be in between the 4th and 5th round. So, that'll work out really well. Alright, everyone, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate y'all, and I will talk to you in the comments. Goodbye, everyone.